President Biden said today he is being constantly briefed on congressional negotiations to pass gun reform, and he will do what he can to bring about, quote, real progress. In a rare move, he gave a primetime address to put pressure on Republicans to, quote, do something about the gun violence epidemic in America.
The president proposed a ban on assault weapons or raising the minimum age to buy one to 21. His frustration was on display as talks again appear to be on a road to nowhere.
My God, the fact that the majority of the Senate Republicans don't want any of these proposals even to be debated or come up for a vote, I find unconscionable. We can't fail the American people again.
Unsurprisingly, Republicans are pushing back.
What's wrong with raising the age for semi-automatic rifles?
Unconstitutional. Even the Ninth Circuit just said it was unconstitutional.
All right, let's talk about this. We have Rina Shah. She's a Republican strategist and senior advisor to the Republican Women for Progress. And Jason Villalba is the CEO of the Texas Hispanic Policy Foundation. He's a former Republican member of the Texas House of Representatives, and he's written a new op-ed in which he accuses Texas Republicans of being feckless about gun violence. So, Jason, let's start there. Why the cowardice in Texas to do anything?
It's very difficult anywhere as an elected official to defy the NRA and to defy the party when it comes to these kinds of initiatives. As a member of the Texas legislature, I tried on a number of occasions to introduce and to support common sense gun reform. Things like what the president talked about last night, raise the age to 21, provides for background checks, even licensing. In Texas, during the time that I was there, we went the opposite direction. And without any restrictions whatsoever, people could access this high-powered weaponry. But when I defied that, when I went against that, the effect was immediate, not only from my own party, but from the NRA and from various gun lobbyists. And so immediately I'm attacked. Immediately money flows into the coffers of people that would oppose me in a primary. And I was drummed out of the party for this kind of transgression. So while I recognize that these kinds of initiatives make sense to most people who are watching today, if you're an elected official in a red state and you defy the NRA or your local association, it will be very difficult in an election cycle for you.
Rina, to you. So then, considering what Jason said and wrote as context, what do you make of this request? Not an order from Governor Abbott, as he has for other conservative priorities, but this request from the legislature for a special session to meet on school safety, mental health, social media, police training, and firearm safety. You think that's just for show?
Well, this is an extraordinary moment, and I've worked in government and politics for nearly 2 decades. But before all of that, I'm an American mom. And I can say this, that despite what happens in state legislatures, there's been good news in places like Florida. But we still see our federal lawmakers refuse to act and take on certain reforms that don't infringe on personal liberties in the way in which right-wing media is making it out to seem. There is no large conspiracy in order for Democrats to come and take away your stuff. We need to push back on that rhetoric as sensible people. There are reasonable Republicans like me across the country, coast to coast, who have felt how horrific this gun violence has permeated our daily lives. And we no longer will stay silent. We know that there is some action that our federal lawmakers can take, but it's time for them to stand up for reasonable, practical reforms that so many Republicans around the country support.
Jason, it's really interesting to hear your experience of being in the Texas state legislature and then being drummed out, as you say, of the Republican Party and being deprived money and that full court press against you for trying to propose common sense. Why are Republicans so afraid or so beholden, let me say, of the NRA?
Well, the NRA has a great sway over not only elected officials, but the people that vote in Republican Party primaries. Remember, in a state like Texas, owning a gun, a rifle or a handgun, is part of our history. It's in our DNA. We're very independent people. And make no mistake, I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. It's the common sense reforms that we hear about from the president last night and from others that always vexed me. You know, I was confounded why we couldn't have simple protective measures. For example, over the age of 21. If you look at what happened across the country in the last decade, particularly in Texas, the people that were perpetrating these crimes were 18, 19, and they were having access to these weapons. And so why not raise the rate to 21? That's not in the Constitution. There's no restriction against that. But what happens is if you support that, immediately you're characterized as someone who is against the Second Amendment at all. And then you hear the rhetoric like he's trying to take away our guns or he's going to limit our ability to access guns. And that's, of course, not true. But that's the rhetoric that's used, and it works in Republican Party primary politics, particularly in red states like Texas.
Rena, you brought up the example of Florida. After Parkland, the Republican governor and Republican legislature made progress on gun reform there. Is this a moment where that is not even possible in Oklahoma, where we saw the Tulsa shooting, of course, in Texas?
Anything is possible right now because, again, practical folks across the country understand that we can no longer sit by and reflect on how these things are happening. We have the data to show us why these things are happening, how people are getting same-day access to weapons that belong in the hands of military instead of civilians. And look, I get it. Conservatives across the country don't want bans, right? But they can understand that there are things we can do to keep these things out, these guns, out of the hands of people such as the NRA put it, with dangerous behavioral issues. Okay, so let's get down to the common denominator here. They're all able to access these weapons of war. We've got to put a stop to that. So that's where Republicans ought to come in, and don't send form letters, Republicans, if you're listening to me. Don't send those to your federal lawmakers. Share with them the personal stories. One like I have, when my daughter was going to kindergarten, I wouldn't get her light-up shoes she wanted. I feared because of years before, I had heard after Sandy Hook that children were being denied light-up shoes by their parents because they were afraid of being spotted during an attack. So this is the issue here. As a mom, my heart hurts for all these cities, but I realize that it's no longer time to sit by and hope that these lawmakers can do the right thing. We need to put the pressure on them. And the good news is that slowly but surely, the NRA and the GOP are no longer having a chokehold on one another. And that's happening in real time. We do see that. So we need to encourage that to continue.
Yeah. All right, we'll see if these talks at the federal and state level, if they go anywhere. Rena Shah, Jason Villalba, thank you.